If our theory is correct, if there's only room on the superstar stage for one or two players at a time, if in the annals of history each generation is indeed limited to a handful of heroes, then one can only wonder what might have been. For instance, would Cale, David, and Richard have enjoyed the success that they did if Ned, Jr., and Fast Freddie had stayed in the sport? And how about shining stars Nelson Stacy and Pete Hamilton, who won at Darlington and Daytona but then walked away? And consider Leroy Yarborough, who Junior Johnson considers to be the most fearless of all his drivers. In 1969, Leroy won the equivalent of the Winston Million, taking the checker to Daytona, Charlotte, and Darlington, but would ultimately pass away in a mental institution after battling alcoholism. But perhaps one of the greatest warriors on the track was fighting a war off the track with AIDS. He would eventually succumb to the disease in 1989. Tim Richmond, whose 7 wins in 1986 proved his talents true, was one of the few that could test the Intimidator.
We lost a great racer like Tim Richmond. I mean, he's just so much talent driving a car, but he was also one of those guys I don't think could tell you much how to put it together, but he could drive the heck out of it if you got it right.
It is also true that fate cleared that stage in the tragic year 1993. The decade had begun with such great promise. 2 rising stars were vying for the attention of the stock car world. 2 fine young men many thought would eventually live among the old-time greats. There was Alan Kulwicki, the Wisconsin short tracker with an engineering degree to go with his heavy right foot, willing to give up everything he had for a chance to prove that he was the best, and prove that he did on his own terms.
Alan Kulwicki, talent-wise, was untouchable.
Alan got his chance, proved his point, won the championship, danced for that one moment on the superstar stage, if only briefly, before losing his life 4 months later in an aviation accident. And how do we measure the potential of Davey Allison? With his dad Bobby showing the way, and what better role model could any son have? The father leading, the son learning, the twin heritages of the Allison family and Alabama gang were surely ready to soar to new heights of greatness. Instead, the dreams all crashed down with Davey's new helicopter. Another bright light for the future gone suddenly dark.
I think Davey would have definitely been champion over several times probably. Who knows, I might not be 7-time champion if he is still alive. He'd have beat me out maybe a year or 2. So it's just hard to figure how it would have turned out.